afternoon. My name is David Santos. I'm from Santa Maria da Feira. And I'm here to talk about a project that I did with my colleague Rafael Santos. The title of the project is a computational model of a monoatomic gas, an approximation to the Maxwell-Boltzmann distribution. In the second half of the 19th century, James Maxwell published the book on the dynamical theory of gases. Now, a couple of years later, Boltzmann generalized the ideas of Maxwell and created the distribution of Maxwell-Boltzmann as we know it nowadays. Me and my colleague began this project by creating a computational model that described the collision between particles in an ideal gas. The monoatomic model of an ideal gas consists of a model where a system that is isolated has a set number of particles that are identical, which collide with one another in a random fashion. Now, since we only want thermodynamical results, we won't be needing neither the rotation nor the vibration of the particle. In the beginning, we started by colliding only two particles to understand better the concepts of the collision between two particles, and then we evolved from that to make a computational model that described the collision between the number of particles that we wanted, the number of collisions that we wanted, a set energy that we defined, and the angle of when the collision occurred. Now, one of the concepts that we actually had the most difficult time with, even to integrate to the computational model, we're actually normalizing the velocities. This means that for the sum of every single particle of the system, the sum of the kinetic energy of every single particle of the system to be equal to the energy that we had predefined, we needed to basically divide the velocity by a constant. Then another concept that we had to implement were Galileo's transformations. Now, this eased up things a bit because it allowed us to go to the center of mass frame, which allowed us to assume that the velocities of the particles were symmetrical. And then we just had to do the collision where we followed that there were no losses of energy, and we also followed the angle that we had pre-established. Then we just had to return to the original frame where we would save the velocities of the particles after the collision until the next collision where the particles were selected. In the future, we hope to implement two thermodynamical models in our project, canonical and microcanonical ensembles. This will allow us to see which of these ensembles actually allows us to get kind of a more computational quickness as to a reasonable approximation of the Maxwell-Boltzmann distribution. Now, since science can't be made without a diverse team in terms of knowledge, we have with us a software engineer, a physicist, and a mathematician, which have helped us since the beginning. Now, just to end, I'd like to give you a little bit of a provocation so that you may challenge us in a way that helps our project grow. And with that, we hope we can grow as well, since we've only started now and we don't want to stop. Thank you very much. If there aren't any questions. No?
Wow, Diogo, congratulations for your very interesting project. Well, you're of the team. So to start with this session of MIT Portugal program at this Ciência, I want just to address a few words. So first and foremost, I want to say good afternoon or good morning to our colleagues that are on the other side of the Atlantic, and also to greet our colleagues here. Of course, also addressing you at this room, and obviously also considering all the people that are watching us through streaming. So let me just say that the main mission of the MIT Portugal program is to foster collaborative research among MIT and also Portuguese universities, research institutes, labs, and companies, aiming at addressing complex challenges that our society and humanity are currently facing. If we want to build a more sustainable economy, environment, and ultimately society, the knowledge produced in the universities and research centers must be transferred to the industry or used to create new startups that may fuel our innovative ecosystem. The MIT Portugal program has a relevant historical track of tying education and research activities to a community of innovation stakeholders. In the previous phases of the program, we gathered a network of more than 50 national and international industry affiliates. So we start from technology developed within the universities. Researchers associated with MIT Portugal have also created over 30 companies. And in its current phase, the MIT Portugal program continues to encourage links between industry and academy. At the level of research, the most significant examples are our 7 flagship projects, which are led by an industrial partner and bring together researchers working in academia and industry to develop new products, processes, and systems. In this room, we all agree on the importance of science and technology for our society. In particular, the importance of innovation to thrive our economy. But are we on a cruise speed in terms of technology transfer? Are our universities and industry working close enough? Can we do better? And in which terms? So to discuss these and other questions, we invited some members of the academia and the industry involved in the MIT Portugal community. At the end of the session, we as a community need to find also the best solutions to strengthen the Portuguese innovation ecosystem. And before finishing, a final word to the Ciência 2022 organizers. So thank you for the invitation to participate in this event, which addresses the main challenges of the science being made in Portugal, and we are also proud of that. I now leave the word to my colleague Doug Hart, who is on the other side of the Atlantic and has a long experience in the innovation process, and then to Zita Martins, who will be moderating the MIT Portugal session today, which is entitled Linking Research and Industry, and of course to our esteemed speakers whose work aims to give several contributions on this matter. So thank you all and enjoy the session.
Thank you, Pedro. I greatly appreciate it. My words, just to emphasize much of what Pedro just said. Across the street from my lab here at MIT is the headquarters for Moderna, who developed one of the mRNA vaccines. And it reminds me every day of the importance science has played in improving humanity and our lives. But technology is a double-edged sword. And while it's given us vaccines, airplanes, cars, internet, running water, and so on, it's also accelerated climate change and brought pollution and urban sprawl. Certainly none of us want to go back in time and live as our forefathers did. But it's not clear yet, at least in my mind, whether science is producing a net positive or a net negative. Certainly in our lifetimes, it's been a net positive. But as history progresses and climate change becomes worse and pollution becomes worse, that may not always be the case. So I think the MIT Portugal program has been very aware of this and very focused on making sure that science is viewed as a net positive. Topics such as climate change, plastic, ocean health, urban sprawl, and others are at the forefront of what the MIT Portugal program is emphasized in terms of research. So as technologists, we owe it to the future generations to solve these problems and to make sure that history views us as having a net positive for being citizens as part of it. And so with that, I'm looking forward to hearing some of the research going on in the MIT Portugal program. Thank you.
Good afternoon to all. A special thank you to Pedro and to Doug. Always an inspiration, and you're always very kind to give this type of speech. So thank you very much. Good afternoon to everybody. Welcome to the MIT Portugal session at Ciência 2022. We are linking research and industry. That's the theme that we will be discussing during the next hour or so, hopefully showing how research and industry can work together, showing the benefits of this collaboration and how the MIT Portugal program is contributing to the socio-economic competitiveness of Portugal. So for this discussion, we have with us here and online some members of academia and industry who are involved with the MIT Portugal program. So for those of you wondering, Catarina Araújo unfortunately is sick with the disease that we all know, but they were very, very kind. So João Faria is here with us. We're really grateful for that. So thank you very much for being here today. João Faria, for those of you that don't know him, is the Innovation Project Manager from DST Group, a company which is involved in the MIT Portugal flagship project K2D. Online, we have Elazar Edelman, Director of the Institute for Medical Engineering and Science at MIT. Elazar is a professor in medical engineering and science and a professor of medicine, Harvard Medical School, and MIT PI of the MPP flagship project operator. So Elazar, thank you so much also for joining us online. Finally, last but definitely not the least, André Matos, CEO of DTX, Digital Transformation Co-Lab, developing research in digital transformation and one of the MIT Portugal program's focus areas. So each one of you will have a presentation. I suggest that we present in this order that I introduce you. So, João Faria, please. Thank you so much.
So just give me a second to prepare my slides here. So I think they should be, yeah. So good afternoon, everybody, or good morning to the colleagues watching us from the States. It is a pleasure to be here. I'm on behalf of the ST Group, but as well as myself, because I'm a MPP alumnus, so it is a pleasure to still be here and watching the program still growing and having this long life. So for the ones of you who doesn't know the company, the ST Group, the ST Group is a family-owned company. It started in around 1940 and it goes now in the third generation. It has around 2,000 workers, more than 50 companies, and it is present in more than 15 countries. Actually, it started as a mining company, and today, and thanks to innovation and to the vision of our leaders, we were diversified in 6 different sectors. And these are engineering and construction, environment, renewable energy, telecommunications, real estate, and ventures. So, at DST, we have big investment in culture. As you can see in these pictures below, we have a lot of pieces of art and installations across our campus. In fact, we have more than 1,000 pieces of art in our campus. I can tell you that every and each room in the company has at least a piece of art, a painting or something like that, either if it's an office or a meeting room. And even outside in the campus, we have murals like the ones that you see there from our founders, designed by Vils, or other statues. And besides that, we also have a big investment in literature. I believe the ST Group is the company in the north of Portugal who has the biggest private investment in culture. But in fact, this is not the only focus. We also have focus in innovation, and we promote the culture of innovation across our different companies and our co-workers. And how we do that? In fact, we have an innovation system. We call it ecosystem. And this is laid, as you see in the picture, in 4 main pillars. So the first one, innovation itself, that's what we use for the innovation management. For example, to promote innovation internally, to generate ideas, and to manage the current internal innovation projects. Then we have the second pillar, academy. We have a strong relationship with universities. I would say almost every university in Portugal at the moment, given the amount of funded projects we have. And besides that, we also promote the scholarship of our workers. So we have different courses that we have in partnership with specific universities or other institutions. And we were also able to create specific courses for specific companies and specific key areas that are of our interest, and specifically that we didn't have yet this offer in the public sector. Then we have the third pillar, entrepreneurship, and this one is mainly responsible for the investment in startups through our venture capital fund. And then we have the last pillar, research and development. And this one, it's where we do our main R&D. So we have our funded projects in partnership with MIT and other institutions. And that's where we actually develop our ideas. And as you can see in this slide, we have, at the moment, 10 projects. These projects are all funded. We call it external innovation projects. In total, they represent an investment of 31 million euros. And there are partnerships in all of these, and we have 39 institutions, both from academia and from the industry. And these are organized in 4 main key areas. And these are space and sea, energy, digitalization and IoT, and circular economy. And in fact, in the first area that I just mentioned, we have 2 projects, the K2D and Aeros project, which are flagship projects from the MIT Portugal program. And I can speak a little bit more in detail about these 2 projects. So in the K2D, the goal is to deploy and develop and do research around submarine fiber optic cables. And the idea is to monitor deep sea, but also space and terrestrial areas. And the Aeros, the goal is to develop nanosatellites to monitor both the oceans and the space. And although these 2 projects have very well-defined goals and objectives, for ourselves as a company, why did we start or invested in such areas? And this is because we want to develop technology and competences on environmental monitoring on the one end with the K2D, and on the Aeros project to develop competences on satellite communications, mostly based in software-defined radio. And in these projects, so all of them are now going for around about 1.5 years, around that. And the main benefits of these projects, especially for ourselves as a company, can be clustered in three main groups. The one is the contribution to technological development. So after we started these projects, we managed to develop our skills, our knowledge, and this can be seen in our teams already. They're acquiring the knowledge not only from the technological point of view, but also from the point of view of way of work, way of think. And we were able to evolve from an idea with a low TRL to slightly higher technological release levels. So the second one is the acceleration of industry innovative capacity. So these projects were actually able to accelerate the pace that we can do our own research and innovation, because this is a collaborative project, so we can split up the tasks and speed up the entire process. We have access to cutting-edge technologies and knowledge, and at the end, we have faster and higher perception of what are the technological trends and what should we invest for the future, what are the key areas that we should follow. And last but not least, the third group is the professional development of HR. So in our teams, it was possible to see that the entire teams evolved a lot, not only from the technical point of view, but also, as I was mentioning, from the point of view of working conditions and systematic approach that are developing that now are being a benefit for other projects and for our internal development. And actually, as a slightly last-minute update, I can tell you that few years back, not many, the company in total, we had 0 PhD resources, and now we are 9, and the number is still growing and counting. So, although this is quite the starting point of our partnerships and evolution in terms of innovation and R&D, we believe this is just the beginning of our road, and we are really happy for the coming years and for the evolution that is coming with that. And I finalize my talk here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, João. Thank you so much. Okay, we move on now to Elazar. Hopefully, we'll have his presentation now. In the meantime, let me just say that we don't have David Braga Malta, unfortunately, because of delays on his travel. So hopefully we would still see him, but travel got on the way. So Elazar, feel free to go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you see my slides? Because I cannot. Okay, wonderful. Thank you. I'm Elazar Edelman. And though I'm speaking, I represent a huge community of scholars from industry and academia, from the FCT Nova School of Science and Technology, the University of Minho, Fraunhofer, and many units within MIT. The triangles here represent the strongest engineering units. In fact, the definition of engineering is harnessing the language of mathematics and the disciplines of science and engineering to improve the quality of life for all. That's the definition. And so what we're doing in these triangles is bringing the academic research and the scholarly industry nodes to the third node, which is community. Next advance, please. Now, many have tried to use academics to improve productivity in the workplace. What we've done is to use the workplace not only to bring academia and industry together, but to address a series of fundamental questions at the intersection of improving the quality of life. The first is, can we use sensor technology that is classically only introduced in recreation for scientific purposes, but not to just ask scientific questions, but to make the workplace safer, better, and more productive? Now, in doing so, advance, please. We look and advance one more, please. We look not only at productivity and ergonomics, but we look at what people in the workplace feel. The sensor on the far left is not just simply how they move, what they're doing, whether they're efficient, but whether they're uncomfortable or comfortable. And then we look at using sensors within the environment, looking at an array of factors like temperature, humidity, luminescence, and noise. This is a fantastic project because it brings together very many different elements. The science of sensors, the science of environment, the science of ergonometrics, and for the purpose of advancing, in particular, the safety and productivity of the world around us. Advance, please. What are the vision? What are the innovations? What are the goals of this work? Well, the first is to reconcile these three domains, which until this time have really not been addressed in a balanced way. You see that big triangle with the four elements on the right. Really, some people have addressed productivity, other economics, others mental well-being. Our goal is to bring them all together. Advance, please. The innovation concepts are to take advantage of existing strengths throughout Portugal and Europe, throughout MIT together, and to build a whole which is far greater than the sum of the parts. Using incredible work that has gone on in these domains to now create this amazing opportunity. Next, advance, please. The opportunities are in addressing unsolved problems in the academic study of work, and in particular, the subjective means to trap job quality. It's really quite a departure for academicians. What we're trying to do is to define not only how sensors work, but what does it mean to define the workplace and how can we make it more productive? And in doing so, the methods we use involve the workplace itself. Advance, please. Now, the research questions is, how do you measure work where people are moving? And what biomarkers do you use to assess an efficiency? Advance, please. Now, in the laboratory, we have a whole array of factors from ultrasound to motion detection. We can look, as you see here in this moving image now, with truly sophisticated technologies by my colleagues at MIT that on a very small scale can look at muscle activation on a sarcolemmic level. Advance, please. And then we can do what others have not done. Take this into workplaces where repetitive tasks in environments which may have macro or even micro dangers to them. Advance, please. We borrow from, and advance if you could while we're doing this, you'll see we borrow from a work that has been going on at MIT and others to look at motion professionals, dancers whose every effort is synchronized, is precise, is repetitive, and where within our facilities, we can actually model this in terms of the balance between energy expenditure, energy storage, and energy retrieval. Next slide, please. Imagine now we can take our quantification of what dancers do to someone who is equally expert. What we're trying to do is to create in all domain spaces motion experts. And we'll do this by sensing the environment, sensing the objective and subjective feelings of the operators. Next slide, please. Now, what you see here is this woman who is doing a task which many of us unfairly might expect is mundane. But in panel on the right and panel on the left, you see that, go back please, on the two panels, you see virtually identical muscle metrics. She's doing the same task each time the very same way. Advance, please. Now, and hopefully this is a video in advance. What you can see, can you click on that, please, in advance? You can see that we can actually, using sophisticated imaging and metrics, see how the bones in her arm, the ulnar and radial bones, are moving relative to what is expected and optimal and what she does. And then you can model this mathematically. For the first time, we can take repetitive tasks, match them, and ultimately we can feed this back in a controlled way to understand how the environment and the person's subjective feelings changed. Next slide, please. We're extending this. We're extending this far beyond just motion, physical strength, temperature, daily variability, heart rate variability, blood pressure changes. The beauty of this MPP program is it takes the best of Europe, the best of Portugal, the best of MIT, and builds a structure which is far stronger than each of those nodes by themselves. Next slide. Keep going. What we have done here by harnessing, dancing, and sewing is to set us up ultimately to have great impact on high important elements like major manufacturing lines, such as the automobile industry, who have had a tremendous impact. And in my domain space, critical intensive care units and operating rooms. In each case where it's not just one, but multiple operators, and where the stakes at hand are profound. Abrupt changes in that assembly line will curtail the ability to have access from everything from cars to medical equipment. A breakdown in communication in the operating room or in an air traffic controller has profound and lethal consequences. We will be able to build this MIT Portugal collaboration into something which borrows from the strengths of each and propels it high impact work. Next slide. Keep going all the way through. We are truly a collaborative effort. There have been multiple PhD students now shared. People are traveling, even in the COVID era, back and forth between Portugal and MIT. We have high impact app publications. And as noted, we're inspiring research topics to do what academicians maybe not have done as well before, to interact for those things that are relevant to industry. These experiments, we know that we're doing, will soon play their way into multiple domain spaces. Next slide. I meant what I said before. This is a team. This is a huge team. It's multiple elements in Portugal and MIT. The operator multiple triangles is side by side with what I have always conceived of is the greatness of Portugal. It's inspired innovation in the face of uncertainty, represented here by the ships of the 15th and 16th century that charted unfathomed territories and brought technology from the old world to the new world to teach us how best to address societal issues. Thank you for allowing me to speak today, and thank you for allowing me to be a part of this wonderful program. My incredible gratitude to Doug and Pedro and Zita for all they've done to enable this.
Thank you so much, Elazar. Thank you. We now call André Matos to the stage, please, to give your talk.
Okay, so thank you for the opportunity to be here today. It's a real pleasure. And certainly after such well delivered presentations. It is truly a pleasure to be with you today. So today I'll tell you about DTX and how we play our role in the collaboration between industry and academia. So DTX is a collab. So what's a collab? A collab is a collaborative laboratory created by, it's a type of institution created by the Portuguese government, specifically with the goal of incentivizing and nurturing this collaboration between industry and academia in the body of an institution that does that by its very mission. DTX has 20 shareholders. These are our shareholders. 13 of these shareholders are companies from a wide range of industries and of different size and scope. So we have large organizations, large multinationals like Accenture, like Bosch, Embraer. We have large national companies like the ST Group, who has just presented here, and smaller organizations as well. We have 3 universities that are part of DTX, University of Minho, Portuguese Catholic University, and University of Évora, and 4 research and innovation centers like INL and CEA, for example. So as we said in the beginning, DTX acts in the field of digital transformation, but it does this in the broad sense of the word. So it goes from the digital world all the way to the physical world. And to do this, we have 5 teams, 5 technical areas. We have one large software and information team, software and information systems team that deal with matters like data science, artificial intelligence, machine learning, etc. We have a hardware and sensors team. We can see now the slow transition into the digital world, the interface. This team deals with IoT devices, low power electronics, etc. We have a smart manufacturing team that deals with the application of digital transformation to the industrial shop floor. We have an advanced materials team that works on technologies such as printed electronics, flexible electronics, and advanced materials as well. We have a team that deals with human factors. So all of this wouldn't be worth doing if we didn't take the people into consideration and how technological change is impacted by all of us and how it impacts society. So DTX has 3 facilities formally. In practice, we are based in one facility in the University of Minho in Guimarães. We have about 50 employees, very highly qualified workforce, about a third of which hold PhDs. We have many projects ongoing and many publications as well. So I'll tell you, and to go more straight to the point, I'll tell you more about a project. And Elazar's intervention was very, very pertinent and very relevant for this because he touched on the point of ergonomics. The project I'm going to tell you more about, that was a really key point. So how can we use technology to improve the life of people who work on the shop floor? So this project is to do with collaborative robotics. It was carried out with our shareholder, with our associate, as we say, IKEA Industry. IKEA has one of the largest manufacturing plants of furniture in the Iberian Peninsula, in Passos de Ferreira. It has about 3,000 employees, and they manufacture huge volumes of furniture that's sold around the world. And in this particular case, there was a big challenge on the assembly line to do with the ergonomic factors of this very repetitive task that we can see here on this small clip. So the musculoskeletal problems that originated from handling those small wooden blocks and the glue burns from handling that glue gun were a problem. And there was also an opportunity of improving the productivity and reducing the injury of the shop floor workers. So that's where this project comes from. And what was the role of DTX in delivering the solution? Well, firstly, it was to do a deep analysis, a deep ergonomic analysis, although it's not as state-of-the-art as Elazar very kindly showed us, but we used the tools that are standard in industry. And after this analysis, and with the use of a collaborative robot, we achieved the first stage of the project. And this first stage of the project achieved an improvement of productivity, so less time to produce the same goods, and more and less resources to do so as well, with 30% less glue involved. But more importantly, an improved ergonomic score and a reduction in injury of the shop floor workers. And this was the stage one. Stage one was really important because it allowed the IKEA to understand what collaborative robotics could do. It allowed them to understand what DTX could do as a partner, and that led us to the second stage of the project. The second stage was more interesting, I dare say, and it also aimed at delivering a solution to a problem of ergonomics and repetitive tasks. But it does this with a higher level of technological integration. So what was the challenge? We can see here on the left-hand side the shop floor worker reaching out to pick up some what we can't actually see the parts, but it's a small wooden assembly, and he puts that on the pallet. We can see the pallet on the lower right-hand side corner. And it's very completely repetitive task. It does that very long reach, quite strenuous tasks. And the goal, the challenge was to robotize this task, and that's what we did here on the right-hand side. So with the solution was effectively an AMR device, so autonomous mobile robot we can see on the bottom, that docks into that robotic arm that's on that small cart. And that does the pick and place of the wooden assemblies. More so, it does automated or artificial vision quality control. So it does a quality inspection of the parts, and it will only pick up the parts that are good, and it will separate the parts that are not acceptable. So this project is ongoing, and it solves the problem that you could see on the left-hand side. So that worker can be utilized on less strenuous tasks, and it goes back to Wellers's point of job place satisfaction. And this robot also improves productivity, because with the same robot we can run 3 cells, and it's autonomous, and it can autonomously go to the other palletization stations. So in very few words, this is one of the projects we carried out that I believe illustrates the point that we were tasked with presenting to you today. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, André. Okay, we now open for discussion, and I'm going to ask you questions to all the panel members, and I suggest you answer through the order we had before: João Faria, Elazar, and then André. But feel free to jump if you think you can add something. You know, this is just for us to have a nice discussion. So, first question: in your perspective, how is the panorama of established partnerships between academia and industry in Portugal? Are we in good shape, or is there room for improvements? And what are the main constraints, in case we're not doing that well, that may be preventing further collaborations between industry and academia?
So I may start?
Yeah, of course, please.
So as I previously showed, we have quite a few projects, innovation projects now going on. And I believe this is a path. And you start it, and in this path you have different companies, institutions, which are in a different mile. So the ones at the very beginning may find it difficult, but with experience, these collaborations start to get better and better. Mm-hmm. Right now, I would say that the collaborations are working fine.
Mm-hmm. Always good to hear that.
Yeah, and the outcomes, as I previously showed, are quite fantastic. We have more PhDs in the company. Yeah. The processes are better. The development is getting better as well. The teams are growing, more professional. Yeah. And I think this is a very, very good outcome of these partnerships. Regarding the second question, I think the biggest problem that may arise is the different difference of expectations at the very beginning of the project. So usually in this kind of collaborative projects or consortiums, we have universities, industry, and we might have collabs, for example. And all of us are here with different goals or objectives at the end. And usually when we are starting and laying down all the project details, we have different expectations. But these are not usually exposed or laid out on the table. And then as projects start going on and we see these different expectations, sometimes this might be an issue. Yeah.
Good. I don't know, Elazar, do you want to add something?
Oh, it's challenging for me to speak directly to what's going on in Portugal. What I will tell you is that the MPP program is in and of itself extraordinarily innovative and amazingly insightful, number one. Number two, if I look at the data for countries that have invested in innovation at the level of industry and academia, the number one country in the world is Portugal. If I look at the data for how innovation has had impact, in the United States in the last decade, life expectancy has dropped 5 years, and in Portugal has risen years. So I say, we have a lot to learn from you. And though I can't speak directly to how the shape of industry is, what I can tell you is that the investment in innovation is paying unprecedented dividends in Portugal.
That's good to hear. Good news is what we want to hear, and good data. André.
Yes, I think it's a yes, but my answer. In what sense? I think as both Elazar and João said, I think that there's, and as I myself witness in my role, I think there's fantastic initiatives and very good work being done in innovation with companies that are of a size and scope that allows for that to take place. Okay. So medium, large companies, multinationals, they have an innovation agenda. They invest in innovation, and they achieve good results. I think in the case of Portugal, if we look at the whole economic fabric, I think because we have so many very small organizations, very small companies with low-skilled workforces and low-skilled leadership. For a very considerable number of companies of the Portuguese economy, this is not even in their agenda. So the next challenge, what we're doing now is good, but I think the next challenge to have even better results is to address that part of the market. Okay, and it's with things as, for example, the digital innovation hubs that will provide innovation services to Portuguese SMEs. And with things of that nature, with easier to access innovation, I think that's almost the untapped resource. That's the next big lever I see.
Very good. You mentioned innovation, so my next question is actually on that. To all of you, the three of you, do we need to create more mechanisms to announce the innovation and the transfer of technology?
Well, I believe in the recent years, Portugal has invested a lot in this innovation and the transference of knowledge from the university to the companies and to the industry. As an example, for example, at TST, we have two different programs. We call them, it's a Portuguese word, I hope you guys understand it, but we call it Cátedra, and basically it's a private investment in partnership with Minho University, with two different companies that we have in the group. And we have a responsible person in both sides of the group, both in academia and in the industry. And what we try to promote is exactly this transference of knowledge, keep track of the technological trends, what's going on, what we should invest. But I do believe that this is only possible because we are a large organization, like Andrea was just mentioning. Smaller companies don't have the resources to do that, neither the skilled workforce to do that. So perhaps we can do it, but on the other way around. And what do I mean by that? Usually, every time we want to, let's use the word innovate, we go to the university, we present the idea, and inside you try to find a person, a responsible, and try to create a project out of that. Perhaps we could start thinking more on doing the opposite journey. So the universities finding strategic areas and going on the other way around to the companies. And this is something that is missing in Portugal. At least that I have this feeling.
I agree. Elazar, some words of wisdom from your side, please.
Well, I think it's always important to be judicious. I think there are things that we can do to foster innovation. It is certainly the case that programs like this should make sure that their investment is sustained. So I'm not sure that we absolutely need to have more new programs, but there should be a means by which to sustain and build on investment for those things that have already been fostered. It's not to say that programs should forever expect to be funded and supported, but when successful, there are other means by which innovation communities can contribute. And so if you take some of the talks today, maybe we can bring people together. Maybe we can add another step to the level of commitment. And so, yes, of course, there's always ways of making things better. I'm not sure that doing more of the same, but I am sure that doing things in addition would have great benefit.
André.
Yes, I agree. I think, as Elazar was saying, the sustained effort pays big dividends, because I think innovation requires and creativity require a level of certainty, a baseline on which to grow. And I think, unfortunately, sometimes here in Portugal we are a bit stop and go, and funding and initiatives, they sometimes are not robust and well sustained through time, and that can have ripple effects in the long term. So, yeah.
Okay, good. So, but do you think we need some sort of official mechanism? Because as João was mentioning, it will be good that universities also contact industry and not the other way around like it's always done. But do you think we need kind of an official mechanism or tool that facilitates this sort of network between industry and academia and industry?
Well, I think universities, they have these interface centers already.
Yes.
Yeah, they do.
Yep.
And this is an official mechanism. But I think the mechanism works just one way. Industry to university and not the other way around. And probably this is just a reflection of the fact that we have way more industry than academia. We have to put some thought on this, on how we can promote this exchange and how can we further develop partnerships from the official point of view. Yes, I think it would make sense to have a discussion on that.
Okay, good. Elazar, same thing. Some feedback from the other side of the ocean.
Sure. Well, I'm not sure that there are differences. If we've learned anything in the last 2 years, is that diseases are global, solutions are global, and in this age, there's no such thing as oceans dividing us. But yes, from the other side of the ocean, let's admit that things are going really well. But what's also, as you've heard from the speakers, the but. So what's the big but? The but is the following. I would challenge people to identify, especially in my domain, in medical innovation, a medical innovation that did not start in academia and only be realized in industry. Everything from x-rays and EKGs to today's stents and vaccines. Same token, as much as there is a way of translating findings from academia to industry, there are tremendous barriers in completing a cycle where things come back. There's conflict of interest rules, which to me seem absurd. If I'm the expert and I develop a technology and then I send it to industry, it becomes incredibly difficult for me to then work again with industry to further improve that technology or to work on the next generation. We need to somehow change the way in which we view the relationships between academia and industry rather than defining them as conflicts. We should celebrate them as affiliations. And so I feel very strongly about this, and I think it's one of the great challenges to us in academia is to how to embrace the incredible scholarship in industry without putting a conflict of interest in the way.
André?
Yes, I think the way we, for example, at DTX, the way we do that collaboration is within the consortium of shareholders. So the challenges come from the companies, and we work collaboratively with the companies to deliver a solution for those challenges. To foster that discussion, we often have workshop sessions where we showcase all the other projects that are ongoing and that have been delivered, where we showcase the expertise and the competencies of the team. And we're also starting to discuss mechanisms of technological and scientific vigilance, as João mentioned in the initiative the ST group has internally. So these are really the kick-starting points of new projects and innovation within our reality. If they can be transposed into other settings, quite possibly so, yes.
Okay. So I have a question for João and André, and then related to that to Elazar. So the question to João and André is, what does our Portuguese industry need from our universities? And to Elazar, what are the advantages you see from the academic point of view of collaborating with Portuguese colleagues from both industry and universities?
So, short answer to that, we need knowledge and human resources.
Okay, and more. Let's develop a little bit more, please.
Yeah, so right now, at least in the telecommunications sector, for example, and IT sector, we are facing a huge problem of hiring high-skilled workers.
Yeah.
And I know you are also having the same challenges at university by retaining good students to PhD, doing the PhD or so on. But I think a very important point is what we need is clarification at the very beginning in terms of expectations of what we can do and what we can achieve. And I believe this is more a problem of the industry than the universities, because not everybody is aware of the type of research that each institution is able to do. So universities are usually more in low TRLs, collabs in medium TRLs, and then we have even more institutions which go to the very last mile. And sometimes industry looks for solutions in the wrong places. And this is something that should not happen right now. But I think we have great tools in Portugal to start using. Just have to use them better at the same point.
I'm just going to pass to André and then to Elazar.
Yes, thank you. João is completely right. It's talent and knowledge. Talent in the sense of being able to create the professionals that the market needs, and there's a real challenge there. Not least because a lot of the Portuguese talent is being channeled into other markets, even remotely, and we live that daily at DTX. That challenge daily, and knowledge in the sense of, and again, this is also a challenge we face. Obviously, all of our shareholders, all of our associates, they want innovation, but it has to be at the right level, and this is part of a cultural change that we're driving, of not expecting a service kind of arrangement with our shareholders. So it's delivering technology at a lower TRL. That's the relationship that the industry is not so used to, and that's the real challenge.
Thank you, Andre. Elazar.
So I want to make sure, Zita, I'm answering the right question.
Yeah, what are the advantages? What are the advantages you see as working in the academia in the US, in collaborating with Portuguese colleagues, both from industry and universities?
Okay, so I'll make 3 very quick points. So the advantages are clear. When we exist within a box, as much as we try to think outside the box, we sometimes don't understand where to look outside the walls of our box. It is incredibly helpful to have partners across the ocean, but also people who culturally view things even slightly differently. Most of the great innovations in my domain were from people outside the field. So it is incredibly important to have others who are not in your same space, who are not fettered, who are not bound by the same boundary conditions, by the same assumptions as you. It is equally and vitally important that we get industry for 2 reasons. Not just because they understand the demand, but because, frankly, again, in my field, they are the only ones that can attain the standard. The standard for me is, would I use the device or drug that I invent in a family member, in my grandmother, in my brother, in my sister, in my daughter or son? That I would never do for anything invented in an academic laboratory. Absolutely need industry. So the question is, where can we improve? You just heard this, I forgot which one of my esteemed colleagues said it, but there's a very important point, and that is research and development in academia is often exclusively research, and in industry, very heavily development. We need to get each of them to recognize that's what they do best. And when you flip that, when academia does development, it's a disaster, and it becomes a little bit challenging for industry to do research. But we need industry to be a little bit more lax about funding basic research, because basic research has tremendous dividends in development. And at least in the United States, that is actually dropping off. For funding basic research is getting higher and higher, not lower.
Same thing everywhere. We have a question now from the audience. Feel free, go ahead.
Actually, it was an intervention that I wanted to do with the...
Feel free, go ahead.
The system gets in the same situation. I'm a PhD student from the University of Coimbra in the Institute of Research of Interdisciplinary Research in Territory Risk and policies in public policies. I lived in the United States, not for a long time. I also lived in Hawaii, Mexico. I was 5 years in Timor-Leste, and I'm living in 3 years in France now, but I'm a Portuguese researcher. And actually, I didn't know the group, the other company, the HC, but I'm an artist from the ST gallery, and it is a coincidence. I was taking care of my application this year for MIT Portugal. I'm really interested in the Department of Materials in MIT, Matters and Materials. But I'm an inventor, I'm a fine artist. I have a training in architecture, industrial design, painting, philosophy, master in philosophy and also in cinema. But I have lots of difficulty for the industry and obviously inside of the university to have the opening sometimes to show my experiences and my discoveries or my innovations to the market and to the public in general. Why? The Portuguese community is not a community like in the United States. It's a very interesting speech to hear from the United States, but we have a lot of different values in terms of community, starting by, for example, in this type of events, we have a lot of difficulty to make a thing that comes from the Greeks, that is the agora, being able to discuss the ideas and let other ideas entering into the conference. So obviously it's very difficult for us outsiders to manifest our presence and show our interest in collaborate. And for example, even being an artist from your gallery in your website, I was never invited by the ST to do a project or to try to do some of my experiments in your gallery. I be part of collective exhibitions and things like that, but never I was addressed directly to do an experience. And obviously, it's very difficult inside of the academy to show the researches that we are doing for the papers and for the PhD to the industries around, even if we have interest in a transversal industry system, you know, because the ideas that come to inventors or to creative people can go from programming to robotics to materials to communication. So it's a lot of different, it's a very wide open territory of experience. So I just wanted to make this comment.
Thank you. To wrap up the session, because we really need to finish, I would like to ask each one of our speakers for 1 minute or less final comments, something that you would like to say.
So I may start. First and last, actually. I would like to thank you for this MIT Portugal program. I'm following this program for, I don't know, more than 6 years now. And it's a pleasure to, even after having finished my studies, to be here, still be around and see this growing. And actually related to the last comment, in Portugal, we have a problem, a cultural problem of being open to different things and innovations, and everything that actually goes out of the straight line that we are used to do. And MIT teach me this different way of see things and be open-minded and have this different opinion and be open in general. So I'm really glad to be here today and to have to be part of the program for the last couple of years. Thank you.
Thank you. We are the ones that are grateful for you to be here and to be part of the MIT Portugal family. So thank you for that. Elazar, final words, final comments in this session, obviously.
My final word is really to remind people that though it's me that's speaking, I represent an incredible team of people who I've learned from. And I am especially grateful to you, Zita, but to Pedro and Doug and the entire MPP program, because the slide I showed barely has room on it for you to see the faces. There are so many people. This in and of itself is a major metric of success. How many people, as you just heard, have been impacted? How many lives have been changed? It would be wonderful to extend it, but I will tell you that I even began to list the names of people, I would leave someone out. So the MPP program has been a tremendous success because it has brought us together on a weekly basis, and it has done things that we would never have done had it not been for this program. So thank you. Thank you all for allowing me to be a part of this.
Thank you. I mean, we are the ones that are really grateful to have you on board, and thank you for your kindness and words of wisdom. So thank you so much. André.
Again, thank you very, very much for the invitation to be here today. It was fantastic. I'm quite close to the MPP, not least because we're literally neighbors in the campus in Guimarães. And also, as it happens, we have just recruited an alumnus from your program. Fantastic addition to our team. Final words, I think one point that was touched here was that I think it's relevant for us to think on is the importance of multidisciplinary teams in innovation. I often mention to my team the historic fact that in the Second World War, when the British were trying to break the code of the Enigma machine, they brought together the best minds of the British Empire, in fact. And these were people from all different kinds of backgrounds, and they were able to solve one of the most difficult problems of the time. So people from different backgrounds, with different ways of thinking, with different ideas, come up with even better ideas. And this is something we try to do every day at ETX with our 5 teams from very different backgrounds. And I think it's my key message.
Yeah, brilliant. Really nice words to wrap up. So that summarizes really well everything. I would like now to pass the word to my dear director of MIT Portugal in the American Science, John Hansman. Hi, John.
Hi, guys. I'm sorry I can't be there. I really want to thank João, Elazar, and Andre for their sort of comments, and I think we've sort of seen today examples of the impact of MPP, but actually only from a subset of the MPP program. So, one of our goals within MPP is to provide a platform for the growth and innovation within the Portuguese industrial and academic ecosystem. And I hope people today have sort of got a sense for how this works and the importance of the kind of collaboration we have. So thank you, Zita. And I know I have bad bandwidth, so I'll just hand it back to you.
John, thank you so much. I'm just now going to get up because I'm going to give a speech, and obviously it looks better if I'm there. Okay, so thank you again. I'd like to start by saying thank you very much to everybody here sitting today, and a special thank you to our speakers, João Faria, Elazar Elderman, and André Matos. Thank you so much. Thank you for the beautiful presentations, always very inspiring, and for the following discussion. I think the words of wisdom that were said here today are really important for our MIT Portugal community and for the program. So, as you may see, the MIT Portugal program is creating new synergies between the academic, scientific, and industry community, crossing new frontiers of knowledge, and above all, building the future with science, which is the motto of Science 2022, this event that we are here for these 3 days. It is never too much to stress on the importance of higher education and scientific research for the development of our country in Portugal, and on the relevance of collaborative networks between researchers, institutions, and companies to guarantee a more resilient and sustainable future. And it is essential that these collaborations continue. For us, this is a very important point. Only with them we will be able to go further. So let me take this opportunity to share with you some of the MIT Portugal program initiatives that we are currently now developing, and to continue to exchange knowledge and collaborations between students, researchers, and industry from the 2 sides of the Atlantic. We have now 73 PhD students supported by the MIT Portugal program /FCT grants, and this year we launched a new PhD call that is currently under evaluation. We also open a call for seed grant proposals from MIT PIs, which include collaborations with Portuguese institutions on topics that are of mutual interest to both. A new call for exploratory projects for the Portuguese PIs will open in October. So last month also, 3 students from Portuguese universities were sponsored by MIT Portugal to attend the MIT Space Week at MIT, and I've heard from some of them it was an exceptional experience that they had, and it was really important for those students. Also, this July we'll have the 2nd edition of the Marine Robotics Summer School in Faial, in Açores, for grad students in engineering and science fields. We received 97 applications from 20 countries to attend this summer school, and the results will be announced next week. And last but definitely not least, a first-hand announcement. You are all invited and welcome to join us at the MIT Portugal annual conference that will happen on September the 20th at Aveiro Congress Center under the motto, Education, Research and Innovation, Tomorrow's Pillars, which seeks to discuss the importance of science and technology and its pillars, namely research, education, innovation for building the future. So we hope you can join us, at least for our annual conference, and also to the other events that we have throughout the year. So hopefully see all of you soon, and safe travel, and thank you very much to all of you.